Welcome to Rock and Roll Fridays, a podcast on musical encounters
Welcome
and
to
life.
Rock and Roll Fridays, and I'm so happy to have a guest. Welcome, Jeff Hupp, to Rock and Roll Fridays. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, man. Thanks
So
for
Jeff,
the invite. Glad to be here.
Jeff is from Detroit. So
That's right.
first guest from Detroit, and this podcast will air the Friday before the Eagles Super Bowl. So I am supporting my birds. So I'm
As you should.
As I should.
You'll never see the Lions in that game, by the way. FYI.
Everyone's got their team. So
Right.
So Jeff, let's talk about Band on the Run, right? So
Yeah.
I saw some information out there around this, and I'll give a little synopsis, and then you can
Sure.
fill in the details, and we'll get into it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Band on the Run, in a nutshell, is Little Miss Sunshine meets Almost Famous with a dash of Detroit Rock City. I love that. So tell me, what is Band on the Run, right? Everyone thinks Paul McCartney, but like what is Band on the Run in your world?
Yeah, apologies to stealing that from McCartney. He's a hero of mine, so I'm sure he won't mind. And I haven't gotten a cease and desist yet, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, the short of the long is, during COVID, it was slow around here. Obviously, it was slow everywhere, and my job had also kind of we were going through some stuff, and they laid a bunch of people off, so I was really, really slow and bored. So I just started writing some scripts, and I was a film major in college, but never, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, never actually completed a screenplay. I wrote one when I was, believe it or not, I wrote one when I was 8 after I saw Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I still have it. It's crazy that I still have it somewhere. But anyways, so I started writing some stuff, and I was like, is this crap? Is it okay? I started sending it out, and then before I knew it, I was starting to place in some screenwriting competitions. And so I wrote one, and then my second one was Band on the Run, and it's kind of like semi-autobiographical, I would say. I was in a band in the 90s here in Detroit. Decent band. We had some cool opportunities, and one of them was going to South by Southwest.
Yep.
The kind of
when in the 90s, I'm a
yeah
high schooler of the 90s, one of the great decades of music, and South by Southwest then was probably way different than it is now, right? Probably a little more organic and natural, right?
It was just starting to really get commercial around then. And it was the thing every local band in Detroit wanted to go to be invited to.
Yeah.
But at the time, my mom was sick with a disease, MS, and so it caused some kind of turbulence during this time. So I wasn't sure if I was going to go. We ended up going, and we had a great time. We actually ended up getting what's known as a demo deal with a major label.
What was the name of the band?
The band was called the Atomic Numbers.
The Atomic Numbers.
Yeah.
Can't forget that name.
No, we were a bunch of science nerds, and so we had this science thing going on. But yeah, we ended up going, and we did the demo deal. We didn't end up getting the record deal, but it was just a moment in time. And then as COVID came, and I started thinking about what my next screenplay was going to be, I was like, I think I'm going to write about this time in my life in the 90s. The music was good, and South by Southwest was happening, and there was some crazy stuff going on in my life just with my family. And I started thinking, like, what would have happened if I would have took my mom in a wheelchair in my stinky band's van all the way to Austin? And that just kind of triggered a whole bunch of thoughts and ideas. And so I wrote it, and so that's kind of the story. Yeah.
So the story is the wheelchair-bound mother
Yep.
being taken to the South by Southwest with the garage band and go get their record deal. All right.
Right.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? Hilarity ensues on the road.
Yes.
Right.
Where's the project right now? Where is it kind of lay?
Yeah. So currently I guess in the biz, which I'm getting familiar with, it's called in development. I do have a producer who I'm working with. Her name is Maria Kapp. She was introduced to me by a entertainment firm in LA as somebody who is developing a slate of films.
Sure.
And she ended up optioning my first screenplay. And that's also in development with her. And she's taking that one on.
What's the name of your first screenplay?
That one's called Band Freaks.
There's a theme to your writing.
There's a theme, and that's actually near and dear to my heart. But that's more of a high school story of a band. It's a battle of the bands concept, not terribly original, but I'd like to think the twist on it's a little original. But anyway, she's developing that one. And then this summer, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this myself. This is a script near and dear to my heart. I asked her if she would produce and be my sidekick because she's in the biz. And she directed her first movie a couple years ago. It's called Four Cousins and a Christmas. And she's I'll tell you, Maria is she's a bulldog, and she gets stuff done. She ended up getting it licensed to Hulu and all over streaming this last holiday season. So she's a great advocate. So yeah, that's where it is today. So I'm hoping that we start filming in June here in Detroit.
That's awesome. And I read what the information you sent me, that your goal is that a portion of the funds and the profits of the movie will be sent to the Michigan chapter of MS Society in honor of your mother, obviously. Yes. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm excited about that. I actually also have MS. It's a thing that kind of runs in my family. I'm fine and I'm in good health, but it didn't turn out that way for my mom. So it's a charity near and dear to my heart. So I'm happy to donate, a portion to the cause.
Awesome. Yep. What was it like heading to South by Southwest in the 90s with your band? What was that experience, right? That's like you said, I mean, on the East Coast, it's like going from Philly or Jersey into New York City and playing gigs, right? Playing a bigger gig. Like everyone's got their areas and their shows that it's like, wow, we're on the road, we're going.
Well, we were as a band, we honestly, yes, we played around Metro Detroit. We'd go to Chicago every weekend and play. And then we had our moments in time where we played the East Coast in New York City, at some of the clubs there in Manhattan and New Jersey. But this was the first time like we took a road trip. I remember we rented a van from one of our rival bands, Money Talks. Right? And we headed down there, and it was a ride, man. We I think we went straight through, which is like basically 2 days of driving.
Yeah.
And a lot of what happened on that trip is in the screenplay, but I mean, it was crazy. At one point, the van stopped running, and we had to it was nuts. It was typical road trip stuff.
Right. No one ever says everything went smoothly in rock and roll, right?
Right. But it was an interesting time in at South by Southwest. Like I said, it was just starting to get really commercial, but things started to just kind of roll there. We ended up on a bill with kind of a popular indie band that's still playing today. And if I can remember their name, I would just be so thankful. I'll remember by the end of it, but it was interesting because in the back green room, Ray Davies was there from the Kinks.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah.
And I didn't have
tell me about some run-ins that you had back there.
I didn't have the beans to go up and talk to him, but he was chatting with an indie artist named Nico Case. And yeah, she and he had some serious conversations going on. And she's actually the guitarist in this indie band that we opened up for. So that's why she was there. But yeah, it was a great time. And we interviewed at the time with MTV. I don't know if you remember this, you're probably too young, but they had a show called it might have been it was a reality show that put bands on the road. And they only had 2 seasons of it, but anyways, they interviewed us to be on that show, and it was kind of a disaster because our several of our bandmates weren't really into the idea of selling out to MTV at the time.
Right.
So I mean, I remember just like, you guys, we got to do this. This is the best thing ever. And they were like, so I think they kind of derailed all the interviews and booby trapped them and yeah. So, but anyways, yeah, it was a really good time. We had a great show and came back and the story, how we got the demo deal was very quickly. We got off stage. And we ended up in the back of the club loading up, and this guy came up to us, and he was an A&R guy from RCA, and he had heard of us over the years and was like, hey, what do you guys got going on? And I remember at this point, I didn't feel like I had a lot to lose, so I was like, we're just looking for a label to give us an indie demo deal. And he's like, you got it. I was like, what just happened?
Yeah.
So yeah, his name was Brian Malouf. He's an RCA. He's still around. He's done a lot of cool work, but anyways, and not long after though, tragically 9/11 happened. So we actually played for the label in December of 2001, just after 9/11. And the vibe just wasn't happening. And so that wasn't the reason we didn't get the demo deal.
Sure, yeah.
It certainly probably lent to the whole mood was
No, absolutely. So
yeah.
What is it about music? Obviously you played in bands, you're writing a screenplay about music, but
yeah,
I always ask this question of my guests, why music, right?
Yeah, it's a good question. For me, I started playing drums when I was probably 6 or 7, just showing interest, and my parents bought me like one of those really crappy Mickey Mouse drum sets, right? And I beat the shit out of that. And and then later in high school, my mom organized a meetup with this rock and roll burnout dude from my mom was she was a lunch lady, and she she this deal with this kid like to buy his drum set. And
sounds like a drug deal gone wrong.
Yeah, totally. But for me, music definitely I would say a innate interest. Definitely helps me communicate. I would say back then I probably had some kind of social anxiety and didn't communicate very well. So that was a way for me to kind of get out what I was feeling, and my dad was a music fan, and he played a lot of records when I was a kid, and I, we didn't listen to a lot of radio. We listened to a lot of his jazz albums, and then he got into progressive rock, and it just kind of like spoke to me, I guess. And and I got my first original band in junior high school. So I was probably 14 when I started writing songs with friends. But yeah, for me, it's been kind of the go-to, thing. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So how do people stay abreast of Band on the Run, and when things will kind of, it's a long process to go from screenwriting to production to actual movie. How can people kind of stay in touch and see the progress?
Yeah, no, I have a website, bandontheRunmovie.com. Um, uh, just launched, but it does have a link to the Indiegogo. This is a super indie movie, so we're going to be doing it for scraps, right?
Yeah,
So I feel a little weird about doing an Indiegogo, but like one of my friends said, it takes a village.
yeah,
So to
yeah.
make a movie. So I'm really grateful to everybody who's already contributed. It warms my heart. But if you go to bandontheRunmovie.com, you can read about it there. It'll click through the Indiegogo gives you a little more info about the film.
Awesome.
Yep.
And what a cool way to honor your mom too. Like that's
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think she
what
would be
I kind of I gravitated to, like when I saw the information about the writing that you did, and also looking back, it's like you said, it's kind of autobiographical, but honoring your mom. Um,
Yeah.
so I urge everyone to check it out. And Jeff Hupp, it's been a pleasure being on Rock and Roll Fridays with me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Michael. I really appreciate you having me.
Awesome.
Thank you.